Hospital Port as pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to HPANWO TV. Welcome to this, the launch of another watch party or a watch read party. Well, in that case, it is a read party only, I'm afraid. Just reading only. Therefore, I'm going to leave even more time than usual between the creation of the introduction followed by the review and the live stream. I'm actually thinking of maybe making watch parties two-stage, just introduction live stream. Do you think that'd be better? Maybe skip the review bit. Just something thinking maybe a little bit superfluous. Anyway, we are going to be introducing a book, and I've mentioned this book before in relation to Dan Brown. Now, before anyone says anything, yes, I know I haven't done the watch party live stream of Inferno yet. That is coming up ASAP. But, one thing at a time, as the saying goes. So the Grush thing sort of threw off my schedule a little bit. So now you may have mentioned in the course of discussing Dan Brown, you may have realized that he mentioned that he read a book which inspired him very much to do his own writing. And it was a book by Sidney Sheldon called The Doomsday Conspiracy. And here it is. The Doomsday Conspiracy by Sidney Sheldon, new international bestseller. There's the. I'll read the blurb to you in a minute, but anyway, you can, if you want, you can pause and read that, or screenshot it if you want. There's the spine. Now, there's several editions of this book. I'll just show you the. Let me just show you the pictures of the. Where is it? Hang on. Here we go. Let me just share screen, because this is it's been around a while. I think it came out in we'll go into the details in a minute, but anyway, this is the here we go. That's Sidney Sheldon. This is Sidney Sheldon himself, by the way. Sort of, he's got there's several images of him like this. He seems to be quite I get good vibes off his appearance, his face, his smile, things like that. I get good vibes off those. I've never met him, never heard of him. He died 3 years ago, but I just get the feeling he's a nice guy. Just a sort of feeling. That's him when he's younger. I don't know about you. I don't know how much you can tell simply from a person's face. I don't know, but there you go. Anyway, this is the book, and you can see there are several different versions of this. This is the version I've got here. This is this page, this cover here, Sidney Sheldon, The Doomsday Conspiracy. It just simply has here the badge of the Office of Naval Intelligence, not to be confused with the Department of Naval Intelligence, which is all alien and stuff like that, which is it is a different subject. Well, not an entirely different subject, as you will see. And across it, there's this blue flower here, line across it. Now, there's nothing really there's another one here. See. This is another. This is a more recent edition. Let's have a look. Any others? There's this. There's this one here. Sidney Sheldon, The Doomsday Conspiracy. There's that one. There's this very strange one here, which it makes it look like some kind of porn book or something. But yeah, there's several different versions of this cover here. And you get it part of a double volume there with something else. I've only ever read one Sidney Sheldon book, incidentally, and it's this one. I've never read any other book by Sidney Sheldon. I have watched several Sidney Sheldon adaptations, which I'll come to in a minute, which are very interesting, actually. I actually think Sidney Sheldon, although he's been compared to Dan Brown, I think he's much more like Richard Matheson, personally. But anyway, let's read the back. Let's read the back of this book. Take my glasses off. I find when it comes to reading text on a page, I find it easier without the glasses. The witnesses were staring in horrified silence, too stunned to speak. The scene that lay before them was grotesque, a primeval nightmare. Operation Doomsday, activate. This is a kind of a thriller. It's kind of a very sort of, I suppose you could call it bloke lit in a way. It's a bit, there's certain books and certain genres that sort of appeal mostly to male readers, which tend to be to do with thrillers, police, action, military style things, intelligence. Here we are. Commander Robert Bellamy of the U.S. Naval Intelligence is dispatched on a top secret mission, a weather balloon. You may know where I'm going with this now, can't you? A weather balloon carrying sensitive military information has crashed in Switzerland. Bellamy must locate the 10 witnesses to the incident so that they can be sworn to secrecy. But as he conducts his search, Bellamy begins to suspect that he too is being hunted, and by an unknown lethal force. That what he was told about the balloon is only one part of an almost unbelievable happening. From Washington to Zurich, Rome, and Paris, the story unfolds to reveal Bellamy's past, why the woman he loves the most cannot return his love, and why his friends become his deadly enemies, and why the world must never learn of the incredible secret hidden in the Swiss Alps. Yeah, I think the weather balloon bit gave it away, didn't it? Right, there's nothing in the covers, very little in the blurb, that actually reveals the truth about what this book is about. And the book, it is, of course, about UFO alien crash retrievals. I don't want to put in loads of spoilers, so I'll say that much. But it is about that. It's about UFOs, aliens, crash retrievals, Roswell-style events. Okay, so which you'll probably guess that's why it appeals to me. Now, this is strange. I remember reading this book actually. Well, I'll get up the details page here. This is a book published in 1991, and I remember I picked it up in a bookshop when it first came out. I remember, and it's interesting because this was my first exposure to the concept of ET crash retrievals. It's possible. I think maybe I kind of have a feeling that I actually came across the concept. I may well have watched a Roswell documentary slightly earlier. My memories of that period of my life are not very good. I have what you call lacunae, missing time. Not for any weird. It's not for any spooky alien reason. It's not like that time I was walking along the bypass and had missing time. No, there is a medical reason why I suffered from missing time during that period of my life. All right, I'm not going to go into details about that medical reason, only that it did occur. But I remember it very, very well. I picked it up at a bookshop, and I remember reading it fascinating. I did enjoy it. I can still remember. As you can see, I've got a little bookmark in there because I've just started to read it again. I'm gonna reread it as part of this read party. And it is just read only. It's a read party only because this book, as I said, it's never been adapted into a film. It's a book only. So to take part in this read party, you will need to read the book. Okay, there's no film you can go and watch. But I remember I picked it up at a bookshop somewhere, thinking it looked interesting. Read it, and and I think that was my initiation into the concept of ET crash retrievals, which I'm now very, very interested in. And of course, it is the topic of my own book here, Roswell Rising: A Novel of Disclosure, available at all good bookshops now. Price £10, etc., etc. All right, shameless plug over. I ended up writing my own book about this. Now, interestingly, Dan Brown, who wrote Inferno, of which I still have to do the read. I know I still have to do the watch read party live stream of that, which is coming up. He said that Doomsday Conspiracy was this book that actually inspired him to write thriller fiction. He says he cites its simplicity, the simplicity of its prose, the efficiency of its storyline, and it is actually quite it's a fast-paced, moment to moment kind of thriller, which also includes the element of solving mystery, solving plots, decoding things and things like that, which again is a recurring feature in Dan Brown. It's what you always get this with Dan Brown, as I've said before. You get it's the very fast pace of the story, the action, the running around from place to place, fleeing, running away from somebody. You always get that, and at the same time you have mysteries to solve, things to decode in order to fulfill your mission, for the characters to fulfill their mission. You see exactly the same thing with the Doomsday Conspiracy. So, in a sense, this book inspired both me and Dan Brown. Unfortunately, this my own title has yet to achieve quite the number of sales as Mr. Brown, but I will keep working on that. Hopefully, I'll see the Roswell trilogy on the bestseller shelf next to the Da Vinci Code and Inferno, etc. Interestingly, someone called MF Doom Who's he? He adapted part of the text as samples of his debut album. This is his name's Damu Demille, and he actually he died in 2020 too. Oh right, he died about the same time. He was young actually, just 49. He died about the same time as Dan Brown. Not Dan Brown. Dan Brown's still alive and well. sorry, Dan. Sidney Sheldon. But he actually adapted some of the text of the book into his album called Operation Doomsday. Oh my goodness me! Let's just have a look at Operation Doomsday. I'll show you it actually on Wikipedia. Let's have a look. Where was it? Here we go. Where was it? Oh, here it is. Here we go. Operation Doomsday, a debut studio album from rapper MF Doom. And there's Doctor Doom, I think, from the Spider-Man comics. Yeah. Music and lyrics. Operation Doomsday. And he says here, I'm not actually listening to this, but apparently it has some of the lyrics have been lifted from that book, from the book, The Doomsday Conspiracy. It's interesting. He must have read this as well. He must have read the book as well and thought it was a good book. Yeah, I mean, I remember the book. This is Mr. Doom there. Oh, you see, he's got the hat there, the helmet, the Doctor Doom helmet from the Spider-Man comics. Yeah. I think this is him with his band. Oh yeah, he was in a band there. I think that's him there with his band. Is that the guy? You can't really tell because he's got that mask on. Anyway, you can look that up for yourself. You can look those things up for yourself. But yeah, so it appears that there's someone else who's been inspired by this particular work. So that's basically it. Now, if you go to the end of the book? I mean, it's not a. I won't read this out. I won't read all of it out, but I'll just give you a quick look at the end of the book because there is an author's note at the end. There we go. And it says, in researching the novel, I've read. It's not. I could probably read this out. Actually, it's probably not. No, I won't read it out just because it's got lots of spoilers in. But it begins by talking about UFO sightings by astronauts such as Colonel Frank Borman, Neil Armstrong, Gordon Cooper, Gennady Strakalov. And he actually spoke to, funny enough, he spoke to Gordon Cooper, Sidney Sheldon, before writing this book. He also, interestingly, if you look at the acknowledgements. Here we go. Acknowledgements. There's some names you might recognize. I wish to express my appreciation to James J. Hurtak, PhD, and his wife Desiree for making available to me their invaluable technical expertise. So the Hurtaks, JJ and Desiree Hurtak, you must know them. They were at that little get together at Contact in the Desert to talk about David Grush with Richard Dolan and people and Linda Moulton Howe. They are technical consultants to this book. I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm a technical consultant to Hollywood. I am on the subject of hospital porters. That's a long story, but yeah, I am actually. Greg Loftin, the film director, actually contacted me because the film hasn't been produced yet, but he is working on a movie about which involves someone in a hospital, and he wanted to know about porters and hospitals and things like that. So yeah, he's So the Hurtaks were technical consultants to this book. He also mentions Project Blue Book, and Timothy Good. He mentions Lord Hill Norton. He mentions Lord Hill Norton and his foreword to the book Above Top Secret. And he talks about several other people whose names I don't recognise. Probably ufologists from a previous era. I'm not as good on the history of ufology as some people, but there's Lord Dowding, of course, was another. He was another individual. And then he mentions the Roswell incident and Majestic 12. I know some people say those documents are fake. I'm not so sure. Donald Kehoe. And then he talks about, this is interesting, he then mentions the Marconi deaths, which is rather unusual. As you know, there was a series of people in the 80s following the Falklands War, all worked from Marconi, And he says here, in a short space of 6 years, 23 English scientists working on Star Wars-type projects died under questionable circumstances. All of them had worked in different facets of electronic warfare, including UFO research. So it goes through several of these people. There's a whole list of them here. Some of them, of course, are quite notorious. I mean, there was, of course, in 1986, there was Arshad Sharif. Now, his is the most memorable because Arshad Sharif died in an extremely bizarre and very, very gruesome suicide. He was the guy who tied a chain around his neck and he tied the other end around a post or something, or a tree, and he drove off at high speed. Of course, which completely ripped his head right off. I feel sorry for the paramedic team that had to attend that. Indeed, the porters who had to bring the body in. And so he asked that question. He says, "Well, what are these? What's this all about?" And of course, this is something that people are still asking to this day. And he says, in the past 3 decades, there have been at least 70,000 reports of mysterious objects in the skies. And he mentions Carl Sagan estimating that in our Milky Way galaxy there are 250 billion stars. A billion of these must have planets capable of supporting some form of civilization. If you know about from my SETI talk, you'll know that from my SETI and ufology talk, you'll know that estimate has gone up somewhat. He says that he's asked 2 former presidents of the United States if they have any knowledge of UFOs, and their responses were negative, but he won't say which ones they are. And he says here, he actually writes it. This is a letter from Gordon Cooper. He finishes with a letter from Gordon Cooper to Ambassador Griffith, Mission of Grenada to the United Nations. Now, of course, as you know, the Grenada played a huge role in exopolitics because of their first prime minister in 1974 when the island became independent. Their first prime minister was called Sir Eric Gairy, and he was very, very interested in the subject of UFOs and managed to get a resolution passed in the UN because he was the country's ambassador to the UN as well as its prime minister, and he managed to get resolution passed about UFOs. But of course, it all went wrong. As I explained, I've done an entire talk on that. So, and you got that's very, very interesting indeed. And there's several other books here by Sidney Sheldon. The Other Side of Midnight, The Sands of Time, Memories of Midnight. Now, this is as I said, Sidney Sheldon. As I said, I've only read one of his books. Maybe I should read more. I actually think he has some similarities to Dan Brown, to Richard Matheson, as well as Dan Brown, of course. But there's, I'll tell you what, there's, I have read watched some adaptations of his work, and one of them was something called Master of the Game. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this. This is a, oops. Oh, hang on. Can you still hear me? You should be able to. I'll just check the settings. Audio. Yes, you can still hear me. I had the audio switched off there for a moment. Right. Master of the Game. There we go. That's this here. Sidney Sheldon, Master of the Game. There's the cover there. We see a diamond with blood dripping off it, which gives you a clue. Now, that's actually quite good. I mean, on one level, it's kind of just one of these sort of like mini-series, rags to riches, intrigue, determination type stories, which are a little bit cliche. But it's very well done indeed. It's about it follows multiple generations of a family, all centered around an aging matriarch called Kate. Now, Kate is it's told in flashback, and when she's an old lady in her very, very old lady in her 90s, and it talks about this company she founded. Her father found it, and she carried it on. And her father was this poor Scotsman. He went to South Africa in the 19th century to look for diamonds and make his fortune. And I remember being very intrigued by this particular film, this miniseries. It is like a 2-part miniseries, and finding it really an enthralling story. And what's interesting is it also has the concept of diamonds, just like other things such as oil, coal, gold, other things being being kept off the market and kept away from being dealt with. You know, the concept of blood diamonds, hence that the blood dripping from the diamond in there. They're actually being kept off the market just simply because they would reduce the price. And of course, that's done with all kinds of commodities, like I said. They even do it with oil and coal and things like that. They won't drill. They won't actually exploit some oil fields, or some coal mines will shut down simply because if these coal mines were put into use or this oil was drilled and extracted, the price of oil would crash. Therefore, these commodities are deliberately not exploited in order to maintain a high price. And in the case of Master of the Game, that's basically what happens. Is there's this entire area where there's loads and loads of diamonds in the ground, and it's completely sealed off by security guards around it with a huge barbed wire fence and security guards. And the way Kate's father actually does this, this lady, her father actually gets in there. Makes his fortune, his initial fortune, is he actually goes in and steals some of the diamonds. Yeah, some of these diamonds that are not meant to be stolen. It's a really good story, actually. It's really, really good. Also, Sidney Sheldon's written a couple of. He's written, or he has written some of the stories of the Twilight Zone, and this is why I compare him to Richard Matheson, because of course Richard Matheson did as well with that button story. Matheson, that about the couple of after this box is given to them. This strange man turns up with a box with a little red button in it. It's underneath the cover, and there's a key to open the cover. He says, if you press this button, we'll give you $1 million, but someone will die who otherwise would have lived. And that's the dilemma. Do they press the button or not, knowing that they'll get all this money, but someone they don't know will die who'd otherwise lived, you see. And that's a Twilight Zone episode. And there's also one by and there's also this one by Sidney Sheldon as well. And it's very interesting. And what it's called now, this is really weird. There's an episode of the Twilight Zone. You can actually get it. It's on Daily Motion. You can watch it. It's only like 20 minutes long, and it's called Need to Know. Now we know that phrase "need to know" is just so well. It's just so commonly. It's so common, isn't it, in our vocabulary related to UFOs. And this is actually broadcast on Twilight Zone in 1986. It's written based on a short story by Sidney Sheldon, and presumably he wrote the story, which may indicate that Sidney Sheldon actually had an interest in UFOs and crash retrievals and things before he wrote the Doomsday Conspiracy. Now this is now I don't know. I don't want to put too many spoilers into this, but it's set in an old town, in this little town somewhere, in a little really, really remote sort of hillbilly redneck type place in the United States. And everyone keeps listening to this radio station where they just play like country music and American folk music all the time. And but then everyone in the town suddenly starts going crazy. They will start laughing. They go into laughing fits and then start talking nonsense. And the government want to know, so they send this doctor to check it all out. This medic to check. He's a public health expert, and they want to find out why is everyone going crazy. And they've worked out that all the people had contact with this particular man. And I'm not going to put in loads of spoilers. You can check it out on Daily Motion, on where you can watch it. And I might show it to you actually. And what happens is when they get there, what happens is he goes there. Okay, so what happens is this public health goes to this town, and they trace everyone who goes into who becomes insane and starts laughing and talking nonsense, like they have a complete mental breakdown. They've all been talking to this one guy. And this public health expert goes and tracks down this one guy. And, well, I'm not going to put any spoilers in. Look, here it is anyway if you want to see it. It's worth watching. It's only 20 minutes long. Very, very short. Very short. But hey, look. This is from the 1985 series. This now, by the way. just love the spookiness of this. It's incredible. I'll probably get a bloody copyright strike from it. There we go. Oh god, there's a little baby. Oh my god. Yeah. This is the best intro of any Twilight Zone series, you know. Of any of the there's old Rod Serling there. This is like because it started in the 50s and 60s, and then it was like, there we go. Anyway, it's called I Need to Know, Series 1, Episode 21, 1985 series. And what's good about it is that it's just like the sort of thing Richard Matheson would write, because it has that sort of, it has this spooky supernatural element to it. That in the end, at the very, very end, you hear the narrator, and I can't remember if it's not Burgess Meredith. I can't remember who the narrator is for this particular one. But Burgess Meredith did the Twilight Zone movie, which he's really got this great voice he has. And it just said, man is a curious and intelligent creature, always seeking new knowledge. But there is some knowledge for which he is not yet ready. Perhaps this knowledge is best left in the Twilight Zone. And the idea is that there's certain knowledge that can drive you insane. And indeed, that has happened. You see, it has happened with people like Georg Cantor, the famous mathematician who drove himself mad trying to solve a mathematical problem. And it may have been inspired by that. But anyway, that's a story by Sidney Sheldon. And it actually says it was adapted for the screen by someone called where is it now? Called by Mary Sheldon. There we go. So I don't know if that's a relation of his. Was he married to someone called Mary Sheldon? Let's have a look. Where is he? Let's have a look at old Sid. Personal life. What did he spouse? Jane Kaufman Harding, Dorja Curtright, and Alec. No, he's married to three. We had three wives. Jane, divorced 1946. He only married her. He married her in 1945. Divorced her the following year. Oh dear. Oh dear. Married 1945, divorced 1946. Oh dear, I'm sorry. Georgia, Jorja, married in 1951, died in 1985. That's sad. And then finally Alexandra, who he married in 1989, and she survived him. So I don't know if Mary Sheldon is a member of his family. Let's have a look. Born in February 11th, 1917, Chicago, Illinois. Parents of Russian Jewish ancestry. Let's have a look. Doesn't say anything about his siblings. So maybe it is a relation. Maybe it's just a coincidence that this person has the same name. Could be just a coincidence. Now, what's interesting is, right, I've just noticed this. I've only literally just noticed this. If you scroll up from episode 21 on Wikipedia, I'll just show you. I've been reading this off old Wikipedia here. There we are. I Need to Know, directed by Paul Lynch, based on a short story by Sidney Sheldon, teleplayed by Mary Sheldon. Scroll up, and what do you find? Button Putton. Based on a short story by Richard Matheson, adapted by Richard Matheson. Oh God! It's literally the very next episode. So they must have been on a run for these sorts of things. The producers when they produced that Twilight Zone from the 1980s. But yeah, I love the 1980s Twilight Zone. Bloody brilliant. Anyway, guys, so just check my notes. Right. So that's it basically. Now, what I'm going to do is, obviously, because this is a read-only party, and I know you guys are not as good at reading as you are as watching movies, because, I mean, I remember when we did the live stream for What Dreams May Come, literally none of you read the book. None of you. That's not a problem. It's up to you. I always leave these things up to you. You're not obliged to do any of these things that I set you. I'm not a slave driver. This is not school. But in this case, for this particular series of videos, it's going to be a read-only party. There is no film of this book ever been made. Although, honestly, it would make a good movie, actually. I'm surprised no one's adapted it, because it was a very, very popular book. As I said, a new international bestseller. Maybe he got options for it, but whoever released the options, the film's never been produced. So it's a read-only party. So I'm going to leave this maybe I might leave this until Christmas, maybe even New Year, so that you guys have time to get your reading asses into gear and go and read the book. All right. Believe me, if you like HPANWO TV, I think you'll like this book. It's, as I said, the weather balloon thing gives it away. It is about UFO crash retrievals. Although weirdly, there's literally nothing in the cover art, and not really very little on the blurb that gives that away. You've got to read it to find out. Probably, I bet if he was writing this book today, it'd probably be a bit more explicit about what it's about. I don't exactly make it a secret with my book, do I? I say on the back here, July 1947, an artifact of extraterrestrial origin crashed to the Earth's surface near Roswell, New Mexico. I actually say it in my own book. This book's a lot more recent, of course. This book was published 2016. This one's published 1991. Times have changed, haven't they? Yeah. So, guys, don't know what's my next video. Well, there's going to be a comments reply video. Next week, I'm off to Dorset, so I'll be preparing for that. So I may be a bit quiet for a few days after my comments reply video. After my comments reply video this weekend, actually, there may not be another video for me for about a week because I'll be in Dorset doing my talk. I'm only going to Dorset for 3 days, but I've got to prepare for my talk and do a lot of other things. But there will be a reportage. I will be filming it. So, but do get along if you can. Dorset Earth Mysteries Group, look them up. My talk is on Thursday evening. And of course, I haven't forgotten the Inferno Watch Party live stream. I've got to do that at some point, and I have not forgotten that either. So please stay tuned for that as well. Okay, guys, I think that's about it. Get down your bookshop or wherever it is you get your books from. Get a hold of that copy of the Doomsday Conspiracy by Sidney Sheldon, and we shall reconvene and discuss it. I said maybe a review, or maybe I'll just go straight to the live stream. I don't know. Depends what is best. So thank you, all of you, for watching HPANWO TV. Hospital Porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order.